Welcome. My name is Arnie Herz, and welcome to Habits of a Whole Heart. I'm here today with a longtime friend from college, Julie Mayer. And Julie, I'm thrilled that you're here with us today. This is part of the Humanity Matters series on hmTv. And Julie went from studying economics at the University of Michigan to law school, to parenting, to deciding to get into healing, and subsequently became a certified yoga and meditation teacher, then learned neuro-linguistic programming and hypnosis. And so you have many, many tools, and it's been a real fascinating evolution as you've gone from, economics to law to healing. So please, we're very grateful that you're here, and please tell us a little bit about your journey and your path to getting to where you are today.
Yeah, well, first of all, Arnie, thank you so much for having me. It's really such a joy to be with you, and thank you for that really nice introduction. My path. I got into yoga really as a way to kind of ground my energy, because I felt like I was always very much up here in the realm of ideas and thoughts and sort of seeking. And yoga was a great way for me to just really ground my energy and really feel myself in my body and to be more present. And then I think that whole experience of yoga and the mindfulness of the breath and meditation just kind of opened up a lot of curiosity for me. I became really curious about energy. Just started reading books and learning from healers, and then subsequently went through a training in energy healing. And I still do some of that work, both hands-on healing and distant healing. And was just always, looking for more ways to help people, to help my clients heal and create the changes in their lives that they wanted. So I found hypnosis, and I'm really so interested in hypnosis now because I find it to be so effective in helping people heal and move forward and really just make the changes that they want to make in their lives.
That's great. Thank you so much. And for our guests, we're going to do 2 episodes here with Julie. And the second episode, she's actually going to lead me through hypnosis therapy process. And it's going to be the first time in my life that I'm going to actually experience hypnosis. So I think it's going to be really cool. I shared Julie with, a number of people what they were asking what upcoming guests are. And when we mentioned hypnosis, people were very, very interested and said, "Oh, I need that. I need that in my life." But I want to go back a little bit. And I also want to say both of us from the University of Michigan and big Michigan fans begrudgingly congratulating Ohio State on that victory. As we said, we have to let them win every now and then to keep the rivalry going. But it is, here we are a few days after and healing over that difficult loss that we had to Ohio State. So, we live in such a world of like a very concrete world, right? We're like very tangible world. So you talk about energy healing. Talk a little bit about energy and what that means and what healing means in general when you talk about healing.
Sure. Well, maybe I'll start with what I think healing means. I feel like it's a movement really toward wholeness. And I know you talk about wholeness a lot on this podcast. So I think it's a movement sort of from fragmentation, if you will, the ways that we sometimes feel ourselves as separate beings. And or even within ourselves, we fragment parts of ourselves sort of away or separate from them. And I think it's a movement toward wholeness. And I believe that we all have this natural inclination to move toward wholeness. And it's just a matter of sort of finding those things that are holding us back. And from an energetic perspective, it's sort of a shift from a disorganized energy system or a blocked system to a more coherent system where like we can just feel the energy sort of naturally and easily flowing through our bodies. And then in terms of collective healing or, healing for humanity, I think it's right now we're in a time of tremendous change and things are moving very, very quickly. And, some people are calling it ascension or, our consciousness is rising. So I think collectively we're really moving through a time when we're understanding that we are not separate beings, that we're really part of one ecosystem, and what each of us does and even how each of us is inside our internal states really affect everyone else and the whole system. So yeah, I think that's it. And just in terms of energy, I think, I believe we're multi-dimensional beings. So we'd say we have like the parts of us that we can see, the physical, but then there's so much that we're made up of that we don't see. But sometimes we can feel or we can be aware of the energy, kind of like when you walk into a room and you have a feeling this is a really warm, safe place, or I don't feel so comfortable here, like things like that. I think, if you're open to it, then you can be much more aware of all those other dimensions of being as well.
I like that. And you talked about the fragmentation. You talked about the energy sort of being dissipated. I think about this morning. So every day I put on Tefillin, the Jewish phylacteries that Jewish men have been putting on for thousands of years. And what it is for me is a meditation. There's two straps, one thing around the head that comes down as two straps, which is very similar to Kundalini yoga. And then there's an arm strap on your weaker arm, your non-dominant arm, to bring strength in and it's wrapped in a certain way. And the main thing is I put this on and I feel the energy coming into me, and I sit quietly and I notice how I've got so many different thoughts and feelings running through my mind. Beginning of the day, what am I going to do? I got to do this, I got to do that, pulled in a million different directions. And I just take a deep breath, and then I feel a shift. I usually go, and then a grounding. We talk about grounding. It's just the breath changes. My energy system becomes calm. There's not as many thoughts. And I'm just sitting in a place of inner stillness. And in that place of inner stillness is a sense of well-being and that everything's okay. And then from there, I like to begin my day because now I can approach it from a place of centeredness as opposed to franticness. And when you talk about energy healing, I'm wondering if what I'm describing is part of that process.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, that's really beautiful. Even just the way that you describe that, the way that you bring in the energy and then ground it through your body, and you take your breath and create that sense of presence and calm. And I think that's exactly what it is. And when we're talking about energy healing, it is very similar. It's grounding ourselves into the earth and connecting with the light of source energy, God, the divine, whatever people call it, bringing that energy through and really and grounding it through the body and grounding it to earth, because I believe that we're really here as like individual expressions of source energy, of God energy, and we're here expressing it in our own unique ways. We're like bridges really between the spiritual and the physical, and we do that through our bodies. And just what you described in terms of putting on tefillin, that really is very similar to how I feel when I'm doing the work.
So one of the thank you, it's beautiful. And one of the things that we've talked about in previous episodes of this podcast is, in one various way or another, different modalities for bringing people back to themselves, where they're instead of, like when we're worried about what's happening, we're usually worried what's going on outside. The outside triggers an inside discontent, franticness, panic, or greed, or whatever it may be. And that through the different modalities to become whole is always a turning back within to this place of groundedness, to this place of centeredness, and oftentimes reflected, whether it's through healing or through psychology or through spirituality, through Judaism, through different paths, is to a similar concept that there is a bigger energy. You talk about source energy, which I want to dive into. Some people call it godly energy, and that we are an intermediary that through which that energy comes in, and we connect to it. We're connecting to a bigger aspect of self. So I'd like to get your thoughts on that. And when you talk about source energy, what does that really mean? And how is that relevant for us?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it means the energy of creation, that source that created everything, which is mysterious. I don't know that I have a real true definition for it, but I feel that it's an energy that we can all tap into. As you were saying, what your experience is, it is that greater part of ourselves where like all of our souls are connected and where our higher selves exist. Because like you were saying, I feel like we're so vast. Like we're here in these individual physical bodies, which we can see and touch and feel, but our souls and our energy are so vast, and it's mysterious, right? It's something that we can't see, but yeah, I don't know if I'm making any sense here, but
No, I think you are. So for our listeners, and I have an idea in my head, I'm just curious to know, like, how do we know that our souls are vast? For someone caught up in the busyness of their daily life, dealing with the various different challenges that they're facing at work, at home, health, perhaps. How do they? Like, how does this concept that your soul is vast help us? And how do you understand that?
I think what you said before about turning inward, I think we always have to start there. When we see, there's sort of like this idea that, and I work with my clients in this way, that we want to be more at cause in our lives than at the effect of the outer world or others. And so I think when we feel this, what you referred to, I think, as agitation, or that those, negative feelings, if you will, that you have from what we experience sometimes in the outer world, all the stuff that's going on, when we can then turn our attention inward and make a little bit more space for what we're feeling, and we take that breath, maybe we place one hand over the heart and one hand over the belly, and we close our eyes, and we can take a deep breath, and we can really start to sense where we're feeling that disorganized or discontented energy in the body, and we can breathe with it, we can make more space for it. And I think when we do that, we start to feel a sense of inner spaciousness. And then I think once people experience the inner spaciousness, it's a little bit easier to even conceive of the vastness or how our soul is. But I think it starts by going inside and feeling the spaciousness that's already within us. And I think that's also a lot easier for most people to do because it's something that's more physical. And then I think it's easier to tap into that greater vastness of who we really are.
I love that answer, and I love the cause and effect. Are we the cause? Or are we the effect? Most of us, most of the time, are like puppets on a set of strings. We're the effect. We're the driver who honks at us, we're reacting to that. We're basically the effect. Something happens, we're the effect. And what you're really talking about is that by getting centered and grounded, we become the cause. We're no longer the effect. And that is a real paradigm shift for how most of us live our lives. And the second core thing that I think you said is that this is not just some metaphysical idea of believing in a God or believing in something, that this is a tangible, physical experience. It's available to everyone through simple techniques that allow us to become aware of what's going on inside of ourselves on an emotional and energetic level, and to be in touch with that and sit with that will shift that energy to where we feel a sense of calm, and then there's a sense of expansion, and we're feeling that is a real experience that we are feeling in our own physical psychic system. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes, you said it beautifully. Yes. Yeah, I love the way you said that.
And I think this is part of what I was experiencing with the Tefillin. And as you know, I spent many years in India studying yoga and meditation before I reconnected with my Judaism. And you see that the process of meditation, which I know you're a certified meditation instructor as well, is not about going outside of oneself to connect with this esoteric God. It's to connect to the essence of ourselves, which is much greater than we imagine. And as we've talked about in this podcast, to our godly soul, not just our human soul, but our godly soul, and to see how that's our true core essence by going inside of ourselves and becoming aware of ourselves.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And hypnosis, I've found, is a really wonderful way to sort of drop into that state, because it's a state of deep relaxation and focused concentration. Your critical, judging, kind of ego mind takes a little break, steps aside, and we can really access, very similar to what you were saying, that feeling of wholeness, that feeling of centeredness. When you put on Tefillin every morning, we're able to just access like the fullness and the wholeness of who we are. It's like we can open to something that's much bigger than the thinking mind, than the critical mind that's always saying, do this, don't do that. We open to sort of our true nature. So that's one of the reasons I really love hypnotherapy and hypnosis.
Well, I'm looking forward to sampling it in the next episode. And I think that, when I think about all these are powerful tools, whether everything you're talking about, energy healing, yoga, meditation, therapy, all different types of psychological therapies and modalities, hypnosis, as a way for us to turn from the outer focus to the inner focus, to find a place of true peace and wholeness within ourselves. And I find it also interesting that many professional athletes, most notably the quarterback of the Michigan National Championship team a couple of years ago, J.J. McCarthy, he would meditate under the goalpost before every game to get centered. And there's many other athletes who do similar modalities where they get that sense of calm so they can be in the flow and have much more of themselves of being the cause and not the effect. It's going to be something that's going to be one of the key takeouts for me, this cause and the effect.
Yeah, I find that. Yeah, I love that too. And and I think it's good for us. And I think it's also good for everybody we encounter in the world. When you can show up centered with a calm, regulated nervous system, present, it's like a gift that you're giving to other people. And then your true light, your true nature can shine out to others. So I feel like it's good for the individual person, and it's good for everyone.
So Julie, you mentioned that from an energy perspective, this is like you mentioned the word ascension, that there's a raising of consciousness, and I'm curious to hear a little bit more about that and how that relates to what I perceive. I do perceive that, but I also perceive simultaneously there is a level of chaos and conflict and disharmony, both internal and externally in this world. So I'm curious to get your perception on that, and do the two coexist? And if so, why?
Yeah, I think it's a really great question. It's something that I've been thinking about quite a bit. And the way I'm understanding it is that as we evolve, and it can be on a personal level or on a collective level, like for all of humanity, and we're going through this time of tremendous change. Things are moving very quickly. We've got, technology that we've never seen before, and things that, like, as human beings, we're just not used to that level of speed and the level of the amount of data that we're exposed to. And I think when we go through the healing process or the change process, things come up to be healed. So I think part of the chaos is that things are coming up. People's stuff is coming up, and it's coming up to be healed or to be integrated or to be cleared, so that we can keep evolving, so that we're moving. And I really do feel we have this natural inclination to evolve, to grow, to heal. But what's under the surface sometimes needs to come up for healing. And I think that's why things are so chaotic and why people are feeling so much sort of angst and anxiety. I mean, I see with people that I'm working with, there's so much anxiety right now. But I think that's part of it. I think it's because we're on this sort of quick path to ascension. I can't really think of a better word, on a quick path of healing, and a lot of stuff is coming up.
So for a lot of people that, in your circle, your clients, these are people with, who are growth oriented, who obviously coming to you because they know something is off and they want to manage it in a better way, right? The nature of healing is that that you've got something that needs to be healed, or you've got something fractured that you don't want fractured, that you don't want to feel that way. There's another whole segment of society that is not aware of this and instead is reacting and acting out through extremist ideologies, through behaviors that are very challenging to the notion of wholeness and oneness. It's very divisive. Have you seen, do you perceive that to be the case in the first place? And if so, why do you think that's coming up?
I mean, I think it's all part of the same thing. I mean, whether people are on sort of a path of healing, they're already doing their inner work, or they're not consciously aware of it. I think the energy that we're all feeling now it's affecting everyone. It's just affecting people in different ways. And I think what you're talking about in terms of acting out, I think we act out in different unique ways. And so I think it's the same thing.
That's beautiful. And that shows compassion for people. One of the most interesting meetings that I've been in my life, and I think, I've been very involved with AJC, American Jewish Committee, and I've been able to travel around the world. And one of the people that I met was the former head of the neo-Nazi party in East Germany. And when I heard about his life growing up and his childhood and how his father treated him, his friends treated him, and everyone, and what he was taught, I could see why he adopted the ideology of being a neo-Nazi. And once, through an incredible process of healing, he came to realize that that wasn't genuinely who he was, and that didn't reflect his highest values. And he completely transformed his life and now helps de-radicalize people in some of these ideologies, which I find very, very interesting. But as you said, there is a much greater upset and chaos in society that's playing itself out both within people and within, externally too, in terms of their relationships and everything. Obviously, if you're chaotic inside, it's going to impact your family environment, it's going to impact your work, it's going to impact your societal relationships. And if you're calm and centered, you're going to be able to bring that healing. And I think what is needed now more than ever is people like you who are really impacting and giving people the tools to be able to move from the anxiety to calm, to being able to really being there for people in a very important way. And I don't think there's any work that's more important. So I really appreciate what you're doing. Believe it or not, this brings us to the close of our first episode. And we're going to be moving to episode number 2 for an experience of hypnosis. And I'm very excited. Now, when Julie takes us through this process, it will be something you can follow at home. And we'll delve into this a little bit more in a moment. So thank you, Julie, for being with us on this first episode with you as part of the Habits of a Heart podcast series, which is part of the Humanity Matters podcast series on hmTv, where over 350 episodes have been aired since the beginning of 2025. So thank you for being on, and thank you, my guests. You could find Julie in the show notes here, which is Julie Mayer coaching.com, and her email is julie@juliemeyercoaching.com, and that's Mayer is Mayer. So thank you, Julie, and I'm looking forward to the next episode in a moment.